The unexpected visitor. The night sky above the Atacama Desert erupted in a brilliant flash of green light. To most, it appeared to be nothing more than an unusually vibrant shooting star, a fleeting moment of celestial beauty. But for Dr. Samantha Chen, hunched over her array of sophisticated telescopes at the Alma Observatory, it was something far more extraordinary. Samantha's heart raced as she tracked the object's trajectory. It wasn't following a normal ballistic path. Instead, it was clearly decelerating and changing course. This was no meteor. With trembling hands, she reached for her phone to alert her colleagues, but hesitated. How many times had she been ridiculed for her outlandish theories about extraterrestrial life? No, she needed to investigate this herself first. Grabbing her field kit and a sturdy pair of hiking boots, Samantha rushed out into the cool desert night. The object had come down somewhere in the Valle de la Luna, a landscape so alien it was often used to test Mars rovers. As she drove her rugged Jeep across the salt-encrusted terrain, her mind whirled with possibilities. Was this the moment she'd been waiting for her entire career? After an hour of careful searching, guided by the coordinates she'd hastily scribbled down, Samantha crested a ridge and gasped. There, nestled in a small impact crater, lay a sleek, silvery object no larger than a car. It was clearly artificial, its surface adorned with intricate patterns that seemed to shimmer in the moonlight. Approaching cautiously, her scientific curiosity warring with a very human sense of fear, Samantha circled the craft. There were no visible seams or openings, no signs of damage from its descent through the atmosphere. How had it landed so gently? Suddenly, a section of the craft's surface rippled like water, and a figure emerged. Samantha stumbled backward, her heart pounding. The being before her was undeniably alien, slender and graceful, with iridescent skin that seemed to reflect the starlight. Its large, almond-shaped eyes blinked rapidly, adjusting to the dim light of the desert night. The alien took a tentative step forward, then stumbled, clearly struggling with Earth's gravity. Without thinking, Samantha rushed forward to help, catching the being before it fell. The alien's skin felt cool and smooth beneath her hands, almost like living metal. "It's okay," Samantha murmured, though she knew the alien couldn't understand her. "You're safe. I won't hurt you." The alien's eyes, a swirling mix of silver and deep purple, locked onto Samantha's face. A look of relief washed over its delicate features before it lost consciousness. Samantha knew she had to act fast. She couldn't leave the alien here, vulnerable to the harsh desert environment and the prying eyes of others who might not have its best interests at heart. With a grunt of effort, she lifted the surprisingly light alien and carried it to her Jeep. As she drove back to her small research outpost, Samantha's mind raced. Who was this being? Where had it come from? And most importantly, what should she do now? She couldn't take it to a hospital. That would cause panic and attract unwanted attention. Her own small lab at the outpost wasn't equipped to deal with an alien life form. Back at the outpost, Samantha cleared off her workbench and gently laid the alien down. She rigged up a makeshift clean room using plastic sheeting, hoping to protect the being from any harmful Earth bacteria. As she worked to stabilize her unexpected guest, treating some minor abrasions from the landing, Samantha noticed something that made her breath catch. The alien was wearing what appeared to be a thin metallic bracelet. As she leaned in for a closer look, the bracelet suddenly projected a holographic image into the air. It showed a star system Samantha didn't recognize, with multiple planets. As she watched, tiny pinpricks of light began to swarm around one of the planets, like angry bees around a hive. The image flickered and died. But its meaning was clear. This being wasn't just a visitor, it was a refugee. And whatever force had driven it from its home might very well have Earth in its sights next. Samantha slumped into a chair, the weight of this realization settling heavily upon her. She had dreamed of this moment for so long, irrefutable proof of extraterrestrial life. But now that it was here, she felt only a profound sense of responsibility and more than a little fear. She looked at the alien's face, peaceful now in unconsciousness, and made a decision. She would protect this being, learn from it, and together they would find a way to warn humanity of the danger that might be coming. But first, she had to make sure her guests survived the night. As the sun began to rise over the Atacama, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Dr. Samantha Chen began the most important work of her life. She had no idea of the challenges that lay ahead, the dangers they would face, or the way this encounter would change not just her life, but the fate of two worlds. All she knew was that for the first time in years, she felt truly alive. The universe had placed its trust in her, and she would not let it down. A race against time. The alien regained consciousness slowly, its large eyes fluttering open to take in the unfamiliar surroundings. Samantha, who had been dozing in a chair nearby, jerked awake at the movement. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other, two beings from different worlds trying to bridge an unimaginable gap. Samantha raised her hand slowly, palms out, trying to convey that she meant no harm. The alien mimicked the gesture, then pointed to itself and made a series of melodic sounds. "Lyra," it repeated, tapping its chest. Samantha's eyes widened in realization. "Lyra," she echoed, then pointed to herself. "Samantha." A small smile curved Lyra's lips, and Samantha felt a surge of excitement. This was communication, the first step towards understanding. Over the next few days, Samantha worked tirelessly to help Lyra recover and to bridge the gap between their two species. She created a makeshift language program on her computer, using images and simple words to build a common vocabulary. Lyra proved to be an incredibly quick learner, absorbing English at an astonishing rate. As Lyra's grasp of the language improved, she began to share her story. She came from a planet called Aethoria, a peaceful world that had been invaded by a warlike species known as the Void Reapers. The Reapers sought to strip Aethoria of its resources, caring nothing for the destruction they left in their wake. Lyra had been part of a desperate mission to seek help from other civilizations, but her ship had been damaged in an attack, sending her off course and crash-landing on Earth. The holographic message Samantha had seen was a warning. The Void Reapers were expanding their territory, and Earth could be their next target. As Samantha absorbed this information, she felt a mix of awe and terror. The universe was vaster and more dangerous than she had ever imagined. But she also felt a fierce determination. Humanity needed to know about this threat, needed to prepare. "We have to warn them," Samantha said, pacing the small confines of her lab. "The governments, the scientific community, they need to know what's coming." Lyra's expression turned sad. "Will they believe you?" she asked, her accent lilting but her words clear. "My people did not believe the first warnings of the Reapers. We were too comfortable in our peace, too certain of our solitude in the universe. By the time we understood the danger, it was almost too late." Samantha paused, the weight of Lyra's words sinking in. She thought about her own experiences, the ridicule she'd faced for her beliefs about extraterrestrial life. Would anyone believe her now, even with Lyra as proof? "I don't know," she admitted, "but we have to try." Their first attempts to reach out did not go well. Samantha contacted colleagues in the scientific community, only to be laughed off or accused of perpetrating an elaborate hoax. She tried to approach government officials, but was dismissed as a crackpot. Even when she managed to get Lyra on video calls, people assumed it was some kind of advanced special effect or costume. As days turned into weeks, Samantha grew increasingly frustrated. But Lyra remained patient, her quiet strength a constant source of support. "Your people are not so different from mine," she said one evening as they sat outside the outpost, looking up at the stars. "They fear what they do not understand, but they are also capable of great kindness and courage. You have shown me that." Samantha felt a warmth spread through her chest at Lyra's words. Despite the dire circumstances that had brought them together, she had come to treasure these moments with Lyra. Her perspective on humanity, at once alien and deeply insightful, never failed to fascinate Samantha. But their peaceful coexistence was about to be shattered. One morning, as Samantha returned from a supply run to the nearest town, she noticed a black SUV parked near her outpost. As she watched, two men in dark suits emerged, their eyes hidden behind sunglasses as they surveyed the area. Samantha's heart began to race. Somehow, someone had found out about Lyra. She didn't know if these men were from the government, the military, or some shadowy organization, but she knew one thing for certain. She couldn't let them get to Lyra. She parked her Jeep out of sight and snuck in through the back entrance. Lyra was in the main room, engrossed in a book about Earth's history. She looked up as Samantha burst in, immediately sensing her distress. "We have to go," Samantha said, already moving to gather their essential supplies. "Someone knows you're here. It's not safe anymore." Lyra nodded, her face set in determination. Within minutes, they had packed a bag with food, water, and the portable versions of Samantha's research equipment. As they slipped out the back door, Samantha heard the sound of her front door being broken down. They ran into the desert, Lyra's slight form hidden beneath a hooded jacket. Samantha's mind raced, trying to figure out their next move. They needed a safe place to hide, somewhere they could regroup and plan their next steps. As they crested a dune, they nearly ran into a young man. He stumbled back, his eyes widening as he caught a glimpse of Lyra's face beneath the hood. But instead of screaming or running away, he simply stared for a moment, then made a decision. "This way," he said, gesturing for them to follow him. "I know somewhere you can hide." Samantha hesitated, but the sound of pursuit from behind made the decision for her. She nodded, and they followed the young man across the moonlit desert. As they disappeared into the night, Samantha couldn't help but wonder, had they just found an ally or walked into a trap? Either way, there was no turning back now. Their journey was only beginning, and the fate of two worlds hung in the balance. The hidden enemy. The young man led Samantha and Lyra through a maze of narrow canyons, finally stopping at what appeared to be a solid rock face. He pressed his hand against a seemingly random spot, and a hidden door slid open, revealing a high-tech facility carved into the heart of the mountain. "Welcome to the Watchers," he said, ushering them inside. "I'm Alex. We've been monitoring extraterrestrial activity for years. When we picked up Lyra's crash landing, we knew something big was happening." Samantha's mind reeled. "There are others who believe, who've been preparing." Alex nodded, leading them into a bustling command center filled with screens displaying star charts and data streams. "We're a global network of scientists, engineers, and visionaries who've been watching the skies and preparing for the possibility of extraterrestrial contact or conflict." For the first time in weeks, Samantha felt a glimmer of hope. Here, finally, were people who might believe their warning about the Void Reapers. Over the next few days, Lyra shared everything she knew about the Reapers with the Watchers. She described their massive warships, capable of laying waste to entire cities in minutes, their energy weapons that could pierce any known defense, their ruthless efficiency in stripping planets of resources, leaving barren husks in their wake. As Samantha translated these horrors to the group, she saw faces pale and hands tremble. But to their credit, not one of the Watchers faltered or suggested giving up. Instead, their resolve seemed to strengthen with each new piece of information. "We need to get this information to people who can actually do something about it," Alex said one evening, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "Military, government, someone with real power and resources." Samantha nodded, but her expression was grim. "We've tried that. They either don't believe us, or they believe just enough to want to capture and study Lyra, rather than work with her." Alex finished for her. The group fell into a tense silence. It was Lyra who broke it, her melodic voice tinged with determination. "Then we must make them listen. Not just with words, but with proof they cannot ignore." All eyes turned to her as she stood, her slight frame seeming to radiate strength and purpose. "My ship, it crashed in your desert, but its long-range sensors may still be functional. If we can retrieve it and activate those sensors, we might be able to detect the Reaper fleet's approach. A murmur of excitement ran through the group. Hard data on an approaching alien fleet would be impossible for the authorities to ignore, but retrieving the ship would be incredibly risky. The crash site was likely under heavy surveillance by now. As the Watchers began to plan the retrieval operation, Samantha pulled Lyra aside. "Are you sure about this?" she asked softly. "It's dangerous. If you're captured." Lyra placed a gentle hand on Samantha's arm, her touch sending a warmth through her that she'd grown accustomed to but still marveled at. "Samantha, my friend, the danger to your world, to all worlds, is far greater than any risk to myself. We must do this." Samantha nodded, knowing Lyra was right, but still feeling a knot of fear in her stomach. She'd grown protective of Lyra, and the thought of anything happening to her filled her with dread. But she also knew that Lyra was stronger and braver than she'd initially given her credit for. She wasn't just a refugee to be protected. She was a partner in this fight for survival. The retrieval operation was set for the following night. Under the cover of darkness, Samantha, Lyra, Alex, and 2 other Watchers made their way back to the crash site. Using advanced cloaking technology developed by the Watchers, they managed to slip past the government surveillance teams. As they approached the ship, Lyra's eyes widened in recognition. She placed her hand on the smooth surface, and a panel slid open, granting them access. Inside, the ship hummed to life, responding to Lyra's presence. "The sensors are still functional," Lyra said, her fingers dancing over holographic controls. "But we'll need to boost their range to detect the Reaper fleet in time." For the next hour, they worked feverishly to modify the ship's systems. Intake. "The hidden enemy," continued. For the next hour, they worked feverishly to modify the ship's systems, integrating some of the Watchers' technology to boost the sensor range. Samantha marveled at the seamless way Lyra and Alex worked together, bridging the gap between 2 vastly different technological paradigms. Just as they were putting the finishing touches on their modifications, alarms blared from Alex's portable scanner. "We've got company," he hissed. "Multiple vehicles approaching fast." Samantha's heart raced. They were so close, they couldn't fail now. "How much longer?" she asked Lyra urgently. Lyra's fingers flew over the controls. "Just a few more moments. We need to initialize the long-range scan." Headlights appeared on the horizon, growing brighter by the second. Samantha made a split-second decision. "Alex, you and the others hold them off. Buy us as much time as you can. Lyra and I will finish this." Alex nodded grimly, readying a device that looked like a cross between a gun and a satellite dish. "Good luck," he said, before disappearing into the night with the other Watchers. Inside the ship, Lyra worked with intense concentration while Samantha anxiously monitored their pursuers' approach. The sound of engines grew louder, accompanied by shouted orders. "It's done," Lyra exclaimed just as the first vehicle screeched to a halt outside. "The scan is initializing." But her voice trailed off, her expression one of horror as she stared at the holographic display. Samantha followed her gaze and felt her blood run cold. The scan was revealing not just one Reaper ship, but an entire armada already within the outer reaches of the solar system. They were out of time. "We have to go," Samantha said, grabbing Lyra's arm. "We have the data. We need to get it to the Watchers." They burst out of the ship, immediately confronted by a scene of chaos. Alex and the others were engaged in a standoff with a group of armed men in black tactical gear. Energy pulses from the Watchers' weapons kept their opponents at bay, but it was clear they were outnumbered. "Sam, Lyra, run," Alex shouted, firing off another pulse. "We'll hold them off." Samantha hesitated for a split second, torn between helping her friends and protecting the crucial data they'd gathered. Lyra made the decision for her, pulling her towards their hidden getaway vehicle. As they sped away into the desert night, Samantha's mind whirled with the implications of what they'd discovered. The Void Reapers weren't just coming. They were already here, hidden on the dark side of the moon or beyond Mars, preparing for their assault. We underestimated them, Lyra said softly, her voice filled with anguish. Just as my people did. They must have sent advance scouts, cloaked ships to prepare for the invasion. Samantha reached out and squeezed Lyra's hand. This isn't over, she said with a determination she didn't entirely feel. We have the data now. We can prove the threat is real. We'll find a way to stop them. As they drove through the night, heading for a secondary watcher base, Samantha couldn't shake the feeling that they'd just entered a new phase of this conflict. The enemy was no longer hidden, but that made them infinitely more dangerous. They arrived at the backup facility just as dawn was breaking. It was smaller than the main base, but bustling with activity. News of the confrontation at the crash site had already reached them. As soon as they walked in, they were greeted by a stern-faced woman Samantha recognized as Dr. Elena Volkov, one of the world's leading astrophysicists, and apparently a high-ranking member of the Watchers. "Dr. Chen, Lyra," she said, her voice tight with tension. "I'm glad you made it. We've got a lot to discuss." They gathered in a secure briefing room, where Lyra uploaded the sensor data from her ship. As the holographic display flickered to life, showing the true extent of the Reaper fleet, a hush fell over the room. "This changes everything," Dr. Volkov said, breaking the silence. "We're not just facing a potential threat. We're already under siege." "What do we do now?" someone asked, their voice trembling. Dr. Volkov's expression hardened. "We fight. We've been preparing for this possibility for years. It's time to activate all our resources, call in every favor, and rally every ally we have." She turned to Samantha and Lyra. "You two have given us the warning we needed. Now we need your help to save our world." As Samantha looked around the room at the determined faces of the Watchers, she felt a strange mix of fear and hope. The odds were stacked against them, but humanity had faced extinction before and survived. With Lyra's knowledge and the Watchers' preparations, they had a chance. "Where do we start?" Samantha asked, her voice steady. Dr. Volkov smiled grimly. "We start by waking up the world. It's time humanity knew the truth. And it's time we showed the Void Reapers that Earth won't go down without a fight." As the briefing room erupted into a flurry of activity, Samantha and Lyra shared a look. They had started this journey as two lone voices crying out in the wilderness. Now they stood at the heart of humanity's last, best hope for survival. The hidden enemy had revealed itself. The real battle was about to begin. Part 4. Humanity's Ingenuity Unleashed. The next few weeks passed in a blur of frenetic activity. The Watchers, leveraging their global network of influential members, began a carefully orchestrated campaign to reveal the truth to the world's governments and military leaders. At first, there was skepticism, even outright denial. But as more evidence was presented, including undeniable sensor data and Lyra's first-hand accounts, the reality of the situation began to sink in. The world stood on the brink of an alien invasion, and time was running out. Samantha found herself at the center of a whirlwind of diplomacy and scientific collaboration. Her role as the bridge between Lyra and humanity made her an invaluable asset. She worked tirelessly, translating complex alien concepts into terms Earth scientists could understand and apply. Lyra, for her part, proved to be an inexhaustible font of knowledge. She shared details of Aethorian technology, including advancements in energy manipulation and faster-than-light travel. More crucially, she provided insights into the Void Reapers' tactics and weaknesses, knowledge her people had paid for in blood. As the days passed, Samantha watched in awe as humanity's ingenuity was unleashed. The world's greatest minds, freed from the constraints of secrecy and spurred by the existential threat, made breakthrough after breakthrough. In laboratories across the globe, scientists reverse-engineered aspects of Lyra's technology, creating hybrid systems that merged the best of human and Aethorian innovation. Particle beam weapons, capable of penetrating Reaper shields, were developed and rushed into production. Quantum communication networks were established, allowing for instantaneous, unhackable communication across vast distances. But perhaps the most significant development came in the field of energy generation. Using principles gleaned from Lyra's ship, a team led by Dr. Volkov created a compact fusion reactor. This clean, nearly limitless power source would not only revolutionize Earth's defenses, but could also transform human society, if they survived the coming storm. As these advancements were made, the world's militaries began to mobilize. Traditional weapons were modified with new technology, space-based defense platforms were hastily constructed, and a global early warning system was put in place. Through it all, Samantha and Lyra worked side by side, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. Late one night, as they pored over plans for a planetary shield grid, Samantha noticed Lyra staring out the window at the star-filled sky. "What is it?" Samantha asked softly, placing a hand on Lyra's shoulder. Lyra turned, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "I was thinking about Aethoria," she said, "about my people. For so long, I've carried the weight of their fate alone. But now, seeing all that your people have accomplished in such a short time, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Hope." Samantha pulled Lyra into a hug, feeling the alien's slender frame tremble slightly. "We'll find a way to save them too," she promised. "Once we've dealt with the Reapers here, we'll take the fight to them. We'll liberate Aethoria." Lyra pulled back, a smile playing on her lips. "You humans never cease to amaze me. In the face of overwhelming odds, you don't just fight, you dare to dream of victory." Their moment of connection was interrupted by an urgent call. Alex's face appeared on a nearby screen, his expression grim. "We've got movement," he said. "The Reaper fleet is advancing. They'll be in strike range within 48 hours. Samantha felt her heart rate spike, but she forced herself to remain calm. "Understood," she said. "Alert all commands. It's time to put our plans into action." As alarms began to sound throughout the facility, Samantha turned to Lyra. "Are you ready for this?" Lyra's eyes hardened with determination. "I've been ready since the day they took my world. Let's show the Reapers that they've picked the wrong planet to mess with." Together, they rushed to the command center, where organized chaos reigned. Screens displayed real-time updates from around the world as humanity's defenses sprang to life. Space-based weapons platforms moved into position, planetary shield generators powered up, and military units across the globe prepared for battle. Dr. Volkov stood at the center of it all, calmly issuing orders. She nodded to Samantha and Lyra as they entered. "Dr. Chen, we need you to coordinate with the global science team. Any last-minute innovations could make the difference. Lyra, your insights on Reaper tactics will be crucial for our military strategists." As they moved to their stations, a hush fell over the room. On the main screen, a sea of red dots appeared, representing the approaching Reaper fleet. Against them, a much smaller cluster of blue dots, Earth's defenders, took up formation. Samantha felt a moment of vertigo as the scale of the conflict truly hit her. This was it, the moment that would decide the fate of not just Earth, but countless worlds that might fall to the Reapers in the future. She looked at Lyra, saw the same mix of fear and determination in her alien friend's eyes. Then, squaring her shoulders, Samantha turned to her console. There would be time for fear later. Right now, they had a world to save. As the first Reaper ships entered the outer defense perimeter, humanity's weapons opened fire. Streams of energy and swarms of advanced missiles streaked across space, meeting the Reaper's own devastating weapons. The battle for Earth had begun. The final stand. The sky above Earth blazed with the fury of two civilizations locked in mortal combat. Reaper ships, vast and ominous, rained destruction upon the planet, their energy weapons carving swaths of devastation across continents. But humanity, united as never before, fought back with every ounce of its newfound strength and ingenuity. In the Watcher's command center, Samantha worked feverishly, coordinating with scientists around the globe to analyze the battle data in real time. Every piece of information about the Reaper's weapons and tactics was immediately disseminated, allowing Earth's defenders to adapt on the fly. Lyra stood at a holographic tactical display, her intimate knowledge of Reaper strategies proving invaluable. "They're trying to overwhelm the planetary shield," she said, pointing to a concentration of enemy ships. "It's a common tactic. Focus fire to create a weak point, then exploit it." Dr. Volkov nodded grimly. "Redirect defensive fire to those coordinates. We can't let them break through." For hours, the battle raged with neither side gaining a clear advantage. Earth's defenses, while impressive, were being steadily worn down by the Reaper's relentless assault. But the invaders were also taking heavy losses, clearly unprepared for the level of resistance they were facing. As the conflict entered its second day, fatigue began to set in among the defenders. Samantha, running on caffeine and adrenaline, struggled to keep her focus. It was during a moment of exhaustion-induced distraction that she noticed something odd in the data streaming across her screen. "Wait a minute," she muttered, leaning in closer. "This can't be right." Lyra, noticing her friend's agitation, came over. "What is it?" Samantha pointed to a series of energy readings. "Look at these patterns. They're familiar, but I can't quite place them." Lyra's eyes widened in recognition. "Those are Ethorian energy signatures. But how?" Their question was answered moments later as a new alert blared through the command center. Dr. Volkov's voice cut through the chaos. "We've got new contacts appearing at the edge of the system. A lot of them." As the battle raged on, Samantha had an idea. "Lyra," she said urgently, "your people's ships. Do they use the same kind of quantum entanglement communication as your bracelet?" Lyra nodded. "Yes. Why?" Samantha's mind raced. "If we can link that system with our global defense network, we could coordinate our attacks perfectly. The Reapers wouldn't stand a chance." The next few hours were a blur of frantic work as Samantha, Lyra, and a team of Earth's best scientists and engineers worked to integrate the two wildly different technologies. It was a daunting task, requiring leaps of logic and intuition that pushed the boundaries of both human and Ethorian science. Finally, as the battle entered its third day, they were ready. "It's now or never," Dr. Volkov said, her finger hovering over the activation switch. "If this doesn't work..." Samantha placed her hand on top of Dr. Volkov's. "It will work. We've come too far to fail now." Together, they pressed the button. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like a symphony coming into perfect harmony, the movements of the Earth and Ethorian ships synchronized. They moved as one vast organism, anticipating and countering every Reaper move with uncanny precision. The effect was devastating. Reaper ships, cut off from each other and surrounded, fell one by one. Their once impenetrable defenses crumbled under the perfectly coordinated assault. As the last Reaper ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, a cheer went up in the command center. Samantha and Lyra embraced, tears of joy and relief streaming down their faces. "We did it," Samantha whispered. "We actually did it." The aftermath of the battle brought a new era for Earth and Ethoria alike. With the Reaper threat neutralized, the two civilizations began the process of formal alliance. The exchange of knowledge and culture promised to usher in an unprecedented age of growth and discovery for both worlds. Samantha and Lyra found themselves at the center of this new interstellar cooperation. Their unique friendship, forged in the crucible of crisis, stood as a symbol of what could be achieved when different species worked together. As they stood on a hilltop overlooking the rebuilding efforts, Samantha turned to Lyra. "So, what's next for us?" Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting the starry sky above. "The universe is vast, my friend. There are more worlds out there, some perhaps facing threats like we did. And now we have the means to help them." Samantha nodded, feeling a familiar thrill of excitement. Their journey, it seemed, was far from over. But whatever challenges lay ahead, They would face them together, human and alien, united in their quest to build a better future for all. As they looked up at the stars, no longer a source of fear, but of infinite possibility, both Samantha and Lyra felt a sense of profound optimism. The stars that had once seemed so distant and unreachable were now gateways to new adventures and discoveries. "You know," Samantha said, a hint of wonder in her voice, "when I first saw your ship crash in the desert, I never imagined it would lead to all this." Lyra nodded, her iridescent skin shimmering in the starlight. "The universe has a way of bringing together those who are meant to make a difference. Our meeting was no accident, Samantha. It was the beginning of something far greater than either of us could have imagined." As they stood there, contemplating the future, a shooting star streaked across the sky. Both of them instinctively reached out, their hands intertwining. It was a simple gesture, but one that symbolized the bond between their two species, a bond that had saved both their worlds and opened up a galaxy of possibilities. In the days and weeks that followed, Earth and Aethoria began the complex process of integrating their societies. The challenges were numerous: cultural differences, technological disparities, and the lingering trauma of the Reaper invasion. But with each passing day, progress was made. Samantha found herself at the forefront of a new field of study: xenobiology. Her unique experience with Lyra made her the perfect candidate to lead efforts in understanding and accommodating alien physiology. She worked tirelessly to develop medical treatments that could work for both humans and Aethorians, paving the way for true interspecies coexistence. Lyra, meanwhile, became an ambassador of sorts. She traveled the world, sharing her people's culture and knowledge with humans eager to learn. Her gentle demeanor and insightful observations helped ease the fears of those still wary of alien presence on Earth. Together, Samantha and Lyra also spearheaded a new initiative, the Galactic Defense Coalition. Drawing on the lessons learned from the Reaper invasion, the coalition aimed to create a network of allied worlds, all committed to mutual defense and the free exchange of knowledge. As the first anniversary of the Reaper defeat approached, Earth and Aethoria prepared for a joint celebration. It would be a day to remember those lost in the conflict, but also to look forward to the bright future ahead. On the eve of the celebration, Samantha and Lyra found themselves back at the Alma Observatory, where their journey had begun. The telescopes, once used to search for distant signs of alien life, now served as a link in the interstellar communication network. "It's funny," Samantha mused, looking out over the Atacama Desert. "A year ago, I was alone here, hoping against hope that I'd find proof of alien life. Now I'm helping to build a galactic community." Lyra placed a hand on Samantha's shoulder. "And you've only just begun, my friend. There are so many more worlds out there, so many civilizations waiting to be discovered. Some may be like the Reapers, bent on destruction, but others will be like us, seeking friendship, knowledge, and a shared future." Samantha nodded, feeling a familiar surge of excitement. "So, partner," she said with a grin, "ready for our next adventure?" Lyra's eyes sparkled with anticipation. "Always. Where shall we go first?" As they began to plan their next journey, this time in a ship built by both human and Aethorian hands, Samantha reflected on how far they'd come. From a chance encounter in the desert to saving two worlds and beyond, their friendship had changed the course of history. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be new challenges to face, new enemies to overcome, and new wonders to discover. But as long as they faced it together, human and alien, bound by a shared vision of a better future, Samantha knew that anything was possible. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Samantha and Lyra stepped into their ship. With a soft hum of energy, it rose into the air, then shot upward, quickly becoming just another point of light in the vast tapestry of stars. Their story, like humanity's journey among the stars, was just beginning, and the universe, in all its infinite wonder, awaited.